Scooter companies in general sometimes have a bumpy record when it comes to safety, but Lime Scooters is on a mission to change that.
Left foot on the board, give yourself a push, and then start to throttle.
Lime Scooter is throttling up its safety message, hosting a first ride safety seminar at its warehouse at South Shores Park.
Most injuries actually happen on the first ride, so we want to make sure on the First Ride Academy people are equipped with what they need to know.
Equipped not only with a helmet, but with critical knowledge to navigate the streets of San Diego.
We want to make sure that you get off on the right foot, do it safe.
Reviewing exactly where riders can legally scoot.
Sidewalks for walking. Bike lanes are for using bikes and scooters.
And how fast they can go. For example, speeds are limited to 8 miles an hour in areas like the PB Boardwalk through geofencing technology.
When you get into that zone, our technology will actually automatically throttle you down, and it'll start doing it in a slow pace. By the time you get to the boardwalk, you'll already be going 8 miles an hour.
This safety seminar comes the same week city leaders announced they're looking to revoke Lime's permit to operate here in San Diego.
The city claims Lime violated its geofencing rules 3 times in recent months, although a Lime spokesman has said those issues were resolved and Lime is in compliance. North Park resident Basil Mornian was an early adopter of micromobility, wanting to reduce his carbon footprint. He took Friday's safety course as a refresher.
It's efficient, it's fun, and it doesn't cost a whole lot either.
And for him, playing it safe is invaluable.
If you can get it here, it should be pretty easy on the beach, except with better scenery.
And Lime Scooter says it will host more of these safety events throughout San Diego in the weeks to come. And even though under California law now helmets are not required to ride an electric scooter, Lime says it will still continue to distribute these helmets for free as an added safety measure.